in this video, we're going to be talking about one of the important and most commonly used reference function in Excel. That function is called VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP, what it simply does is that it looks up for values in a table using a reference value. And for sure, that reference value has to be unique, and it has to exist in the table. Most importantly, what you need to know is that VLOOKUP looks for values vertically. So it will be looking up for values to the right of your reference value or reference column. Let's see how we can use the VLOOKUP function in Excel. Alright, so on the left, I do have a data set that consists of a list of games. These games are being segregated by sales within regions. So I have NA, Euro, Japan, other, global, and total sales. And on the right, I have a small table that consists of 4 games, and I would love to use the VLOOKUP function to look up for the NA sales values of those 4 games. So let's see how we can use the VLOOKUP function to look up for values of NA sales. First, let's write our function, which is VLOOKUP. Let's have a look at the parameters of the VLOOKUP function. We have 4 main parameters. The first parameter is called lookup value, which is simply the reference value through which VLOOKUP is going to be using it to look up for values by records in a dataset or in a table. I have mentioned that I'm looking up for the NA sales of each and every game that I do have in the small table. So the first game is called Pokemon Red / Pokemon Blue. So the Pokemon Red / Pokemon Blue is going to be my reference value. The second parameter is called table array, which is basically the table range through which VLOOKUP is going to be looking up for values. Third parameter is called column index number. So each and every table, it consists of columns. Each and every column is indexed by numbers in order from left to right. So the data set on my left, it consists of columns of game, NA sales, Euro sales, and so on. So column number 1 is basically column game, column number 2 is NA sales, column number 3 is Euro sales, and so on. So for instance, I'm looking up for the NA sales values, and these values are in the column number 2, which is column NA sales. Eventually, the last parameter is called range lookup. This parameter is actually optional, and it takes only true or false values. Use the value of false if you would love to have an exact match, or use the value of true if you would love to have an approximate match. And you can also replace false with the index or with the number 0, or you can replace true with number 1. So let's see how we can write our function to find the values of the NA sales of the 3 games that I do have here. Alright, so I'm going to be writing my function, which is =VLOOKUP. The first parameter is the VLOOKUP value, which is going to be game number 1 in my list. It's going to be the game Pokemon Red / Pokemon Blue. Now I'm going to be clicking on comma to go to the second parameter, which is the table array. We've mentioned that this is basically the table range, so I will highlight the whole table. Now I'll click on comma to go to the third parameter, which is the column index number. I've mentioned previously that the NA sales is basically column index number 2. So I'll click on 2, then comma. The last parameter is the range lookup. I would love to have an exact match, so I will either type false or type the number 0. I will just type 0 and close the bracket. Click enter, and as you can see, VLOOKUP has managed to find the value of the NA sales of Pokemon Red / Pokemon Blue game through the dataset on my left. I will simply now apply the function to the rest of the games, and this is simply how you can use the reference function of VLOOKUP in Excel.